Welcome, folks, to tonight's race here at Homestead Miami Speedway for round number 5 of the 2022 B Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series. My name is Rich Costa, joined in the booth, back in the booth by Derek Vance. Derek, great to have you back for this week's race. And as we're just getting the field to roll off of pit road here. Looking forward to tonight's event. Dusk race. Looks like we're heading into nighttime with the official timing of it. And 1.5 mile oval, another one of those tracks that we don't often get to see IndyCars run at, of course, in real life, but one that should hopefully give us some pretty intriguing racing here tonight.
Yeah, glad to be back after taking last week off. Hopefully, we'll be in for a entertaining race, and it'll definitely be interesting to watch being here in Miami.
Absolutely. Quick run through the field here as we have just one pace lap here, so we'll get into the action relatively quickly. Adriano Pinheiro, the race winner from last week in dominant fashion, is going to lead this field back to green. Look out for him. Alex Van de Sant maybe looking for another shot to grab another race win here. Tate Lytle as well. Great qualifying effort from him. Doesn't look like, we do have Joshua Chin in the field as well. Not as great of a qualifying as we may be used to seeing from him. So we'll keep an eye out there, but the field's about to get underway. They are. Adriano Pinheiro leads this field to green, and a bit of a slow start for everybody else. And Troiano having to defend already to the inside, but then able to kind of stay in front of, I believe, who was that? That was Tate Lytle. Down the bottom of the racetrack there. Tate Lytle in the Cup Series, one of the best drivers at this racetrack, someone to keep an eye out for. Of course, IndyCar is a very different beast, but that 56 car could be very, very strong tonight. As we complete lap number 1 here. Adriano Pinheiro off to a great start there. A little bit ahead of the rest of the group. Troiano, then Van de Sant. Van de Sant and Chin running that outside lane, at least along the back straightaway. Chin now trying to go around the outside of Lytle, who hasn't quite gotten off to the biggest start there. But Van de Sant, maybe a little bit too high. I don't know if he made any contact with the wall there. But Alex Van de Sant, a little bit high, losing positions here, now dropping a spot behind Nicholas Sudik. So you're already seeing some shuffling up front early on here in this event. Pinheiro with the fastest lap of the race so far. 25.37. That's actually a ridiculously quick lap there by last week's race winner, as he's already extended his gap out over Eric Troiano to 1.4 seconds in just a couple of laps here. Lap 5 that we're running right now. And there's that running order for you folks at home to keep an eye out for. 1.5 seconds, Pinheiro to Troiano. And then it's still, 0.6 of a second between Troiano and Chin. We saw something like this last week at Nashville, where the field kind of got spread out pretty quickly on. There was only one racing line. We're hoping Homestead Miami Speedway, which is a track that I believe has progressive banking. A track that, should have progressive banking, is going to give some more opportunities here for drivers to take the higher lines. It sounds like we do have some issues here with Derick and getting him to hear myself. We'll get on top of that for you folks at home, and hopefully we'll have Derick back with us relatively shortly. All right, watching Joshua Chin here as, again, relatively spread out throughout the field. We've got a good group of cars, a good little battle over here for 5th place between Van de Sant and Nicholas Sudik. As I believe we should have Derick back with us now, watching this battle here for 5th position between Van de Sant and Sudik.
Yeah, good racing. Just working out the technological glitches that you get from time to time, but definitely good racing here so far. As we're about 9 laps into this 200 lap event.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, always going to be something that pops up, I'm sure. But no worries there. We'll hopefully have some good racing, and I guess I'll bring you in on what I was talking about just a little bit earlier when you couldn't hear me. And it's that hopefully this Homestead Miami Speedway here is able to give drivers more of an opportunity to run multiple lanes, as we're kind of seeing here with Van de Sant, able to run up high on the racetrack. Last week we were in Nashville, and really not much opportunities for drivers to really kind of race wheel to wheel. It was a very spread out race for the majority. Here tonight, though, it looks like we're seeing guys kind of fanning out up and down, out wide through turns 1 and 2, especially 3 and 4. We'll take a look and see if they can do that as well. Here you see that here, Chad Frankenfield looking to the outside of Kevin Burrell. Burrell got to be careful not to block the 15 car. Frankenfield, who qualified outside the top 10, trying to now get back inside the top 10. He is now once again running in the 10th position, as he's currently chasing down the leaders. Dalton Fredericks in the 8th position is our biggest mover of the race, but it's Ethan Stanley in the wall to the inside there, coming off of turn number 2. He is, however, off the racing line, and no caution will come out here for Ethan Stanley, driving the number 91 car.
Yeah, as you can see, he spun and hit the inside retaining wall, but he was able to get things straightened out. As you see him hit pit road, and let's check this out on the Whiskey Cast replay.
Absolutely here. So tricky situation here, and we've seen sometimes with these cars, especially where we're just coming off of turn number 2 is enough to maybe send them around. Here's watching Ethan Stanley. Just gets a little bit high, and I think overcorrects into it. We kind of lost him in that picture there. Might be able to quickly just rewind that again. But yeah, very interesting to see there. That's the first issue we've seen for a driver coming off that corner. Not didn't get much of a chance here to really speak with the drivers heading into this race about what the handling characteristics are in the car, but should be enough adjustability where drivers can make that difference. But that seemed late in the exit for that issue to occur for Stanley.
Yeah, it looks like he just lost it, as you said, and then ended up spinning out, hitting the inside the retaining wall there. Was able to keep that car fired, keep that car going straight. As you can see, he is in the pits, and he's going to have some work to be done this evening.
Yeah, for sure. Not the greatest start there then for Ethan Stanley. We'll see if he can get back out on the racetrack, try and pick up some positions. Long race tonight, could still grab some valuable points, depending on how everybody else's nights go. So we'll keep an eye out there. Could see that 91 car back out on the racetrack. As of right now, 28 cars took the green flag. 27 of them still running on the racetrack right now. First of them is Adriano Pinheiro, and just as we say that, have a car running. Just looked like that spun behind him. Didn't quite see who that was.
It looked like he spun in the exact same place that Stanley just spun out there a couple laps ago.
Yeah, no idea what car that was, unfortunately. And nothing else really popped up on the... Oh, it might have been Eric Macedo here in the 83. Once again, we'll head to the Whiskey Cast replay, see if that was the right car, one of those darker colored cars. And unfortunately on these IndyCars, not as much ability for drivers to kind of come up with unique paint schemes. There's just not as much real estate on these cars, and sometimes if you see them just in a fleeting moment, difficult to spot here. But here's Eric Macedo coming off of turn number 2. So that one makes almost a little bit more sense there as we watch that spin off of 2, still on the banking for Macedo. Right behind our race leader. What was interesting about Stanley's incident, I thought, was how late it occurred out of the corner. Macedo, there you kind of saw him transitioning back onto the racetrack, is where he was running into issues.
And the thing I think that helped him was not hitting that inside retaining wall like Stanley did. He was able to correct his wheel and was able to elude any further damage.
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the most important parts there. As looks like something happening here as the caution flag is out. There we go. We just getting our bearings there, and it looks like it could be a pretty big one here. as we have to scroll quite some way up here in timing and scoring. You see, here we go. Whiskey Cast replay going to show that's Chad Frankenfield running side by side with Jared Rexing, and this is already a crash happening, but Frankenfield hard into that. Might have been Tiago Benedetti who may have initiated this one, and there it is. Yeah, Tiago Benedetti and Dalton Fredericks contact there. Coming off of turn number 4, Frankenfield gets caught up in that one too.
Yeah, he absolutely did. You got to feel for Chad there, because as you see the replay, he was trying to elude this wreck here the best he could, but really he had nowhere to go. The line that he decided to pick, unfortunately, there was a car in his way, so his night is going to preferably be ruined early as well.
Yeah, so here we go. Gonna watch as Fredericks and Benedetti go side by side here. Coming off the corner, there you just see Fredericks kind of, I think, oh, that's a tough one to call. Where do you stand on that? Is that Benedetti coming down? Is that Fredericks going up on the racetrack? Watching the seam, it kind of almost looked like Benedetti went down, but that, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't look like he was given much room there, and looks like the front wing there got into the back, and evidently spun him around and led to a multi-car crash. As you see, Frankenfield come in your picture here as well.
Yeah, Frankenfield involved in that. We also saw Deuce Castroneves grabbing a bit of damage there. Kevin Burrell as well got a pretty heavy lick there off of Dalton Fredericks. So number of cars involved in that one. And, well, we've already got our first little strategy call here of the night. Ryan Schold, Jari Brupiker, Bill Colley II, and Michael Hossack, your top 4 on the racetrack right now. They all make the call to stay out, at least for the first lap here where pits are open. But it looks like all of them, or at least 2 of them, making the call to come down pit road now. Schold and Hossack should be on pit road, allowing Pinheiro to rejoin back into 3rd. Brupiker is going to stay out as he misses the commitment cone, as has Colley. So interesting call by those guys here as we're 20 laps into this one. Haven't really been looking too much at what tire wear looks like either. So not too sure if potentially these guys have a lot of trust in that the track conditions improving enough that it's kind of nullifying the effect of tire wear, especially with lower fuel loads, or if this is just an opportunity to maybe try and get some track position and with another caution coming out relatively soon, maybe kind of get themselves back on cycle, but with track position. So could be a little bit of a gamble here from Brupiker and Colley, but both of them big gains, and this definitely seems like a play for track position here. Both of them going up about 20 positions.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. It is going to be interesting to see, with only 22 laps into this race, the strategy already by Colley and others to stay out. As you can see on screen there, they've taken plus 25 positions and plus 19 positions respectively. So is the strategy going to pay off here early in just 22 laps in?
For sure, and well, they might be bailing on that strategy already here as Brupiker and Colley both making the call to come down pit road by the looks of it. As there goes Brupiker, there goes Colley. So we are kind of back to our regularly scheduled programming here with Adriano Pinheiro leading Eric Troiano and Alex Van de Sant, your top 3. Joshua Chin, then Tate Lytle and Nicholas Sudik. Rounding out your top 6, Nick DeGroot, Jake Sylvia, Mark Murphy, and Cesar Cabral will round out that top 10 here. So caution still out on the racetrack. Should have 2 more laps to go under this one before we're back to green flag racing. What can Adriano Pinheiro do? Kind of on these restarts. He's been great on restarts so far this season. And just the way they play out here in iRacing, they really give an advantage to that lead car. But what can Troiano do to kind of react this time? Can Van de Sant or Chin or Lytle kind of capitalize, get past the 14 car and compete with the 56? I think all of these are questions we'll find out here in just a couple of laps. Lights off on the pace car. Reminder for those who are new, though, to the Mega Driver 86 series, as pace car will peel off, and we'll do one more lap here under caution. The leader will dictate the pace for that one before we go back to actual green flag racing.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see on the restart. I know a few weeks back, restarts were a huge thing we were talking about with Joshua Chin and how much well he was able to restart. So definitely going to be interesting to watch. And as you see, you look at the first 4 races of this season, and it's been Adriano Pinero and Joshua Chin with 2 wins apiece. So they've kind of separated themselves, I think, from the other competitors so far in this season.
Yeah, they absolutely have, and so I mean the one thing that you're looking at if you're Pinheiro, of course, is upping the consistency for this season, and he's really done that. Of course, over the 4 races we've had so far this season, his worst finish is a fourth. So he's been first, fourth, fourth, and first. The difference though is Joshua Chin. Those 2 races where Pinheiro was fourth were wins by Joshua Chin, but Chin has only raced 2 events so far this season, so he already has 1 last place credited to him in the points standing. So from a championship perspective, it's favoring Pinheiro just because he's having that consistency, but Chin, you also can argue that he's never not won a race here. So a lot to play for between these 2 guys. If we see more of Joshua Chin as we go back to green flag racing here, Van de Sant going to look to the outside of Troiano. Chin, if he's able to show up for the rest of the race of the season, can certainly mount a challenge. But Pinheiro, the consistency that we've seen from the driver number 56 so far is caution back out on the racetrack, and that looks like Tate Lytle and Nick DeGroot, both. DeGroot, I think, is the one on our screen right there with massive damage inside the top 10. But yeah, Pinheiro, that consistency over a season is something we've always talked about. Ridiculously quick driver, but he's finding that right now that even when he doesn't have the race-winning car, he's still there finishing inside the top 5. And it looks like this incident's going to kick off here with Tate Lytle. We're going to have to go a little bit further back here to kind of understand how this all plays out. So give us just a second here as we load the Whiskey Cast replay. And,
Yeah, but why wait for that? I think your point is very well taken. That consistency is the name of the game for sure.
Absolutely here. So here's Tate Lytle in the 29 car on the restart. Going to look to the outside. That should be Joshua Chin. And Tate Lytle just loses it there. Grabs a little bit of Nicholas Sudik and straight into Nick DeGroot. Nothing that DeGroot could do. And that right there, I think, is just an experience there from the rookie. Tate Lytle, we talked about how much success he's had in the Cup Series, 2-time defending Cup Series champion. But here in IndyCar, a completely different beast, and just lost the rear end there, entering turns 1 and 2, and resulted in the second caution of the night.
Yeah, taking a look from Nick DeGroot's point of view, he had no choice. There's really nothing he could do at that point. Just bad luck. Sometimes that is the name of the game, and unfortunately, he's going to be caught up in a wreck tonight. Obviously, not his own doing, but as you've seen from the replays, what was he supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. Really, not much that Nick DeGroot can hope for on that one. We'll actually try to get the restart here on board with the 89 car here, and Nick DeGroot, and here we go, watching ahead. And just patiently waiting here. So you have Nicholas Sudik and 2 cars in front. That white car in front is Tate Lytle, and we'll probably see here just how very little of an opportunity DeGroot had to really get out of the way here. There's Lytle going to snap that oversteer there, and it's really the kick that Lytle gets from Sudik that really makes it. Again, DeGroot, I think, made the right call there. That car was very slowly careening up towards the top of the racetrack, but it was that kick that he got from Sudik kind of changed the trajectory of that car straight into the 89 here.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And as we see here, as we were riding on board with Nick during this accident, again, he kept the line he was going to stay in. And, he was hoping that he would be able to dodge that car. But unfortunately, obviously, that wasn't the case. And, Nick's night is going to be done rather early, as we're only 28 laps in here. Obviously, he's going to get into the pits and make the fixes and adjustments, and I just made a word up to finish this and to get some points. But disappointing night, I think, for Nick as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think the season as well just hasn't worked out the way he may have been hoping for. DeGroot, one of the just kind of those guys who is ridiculously consistent, but he's been getting caught up in a lot of other people's messes so far this season, and you hate to see that for that driver there. And unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. And 4 races, 5 races now into a season, it's tough to kind of recover and pick up the momentum once again. Of course, we do still have double points in the Indy 500 and double points at the final race of the season. So there's opportunities for sure. But it just becomes so difficult here with just 5 more races to go in the season after this one. We're getting to the halfway point when we complete 200 laps, and the season's going by real quickly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We are at the halfway point. Just taking a look as we're still under caution, the second caution of the night. Next week, we're going to be making a stop at Road America. I know, the last road course that we were at, it was Joshua Chin in dominating fashion, I think, to say the least. So that's probably going to be somebody we're going to watch next week at Road America, and then it's on to Richmond in a couple weeks after that. And then Circuit Gales, that is one that is a course I've never been to, I've never driven at, so that'll be something new, I think, for a lot of people, me especially. And then, as you just mentioned, the double points race in December, the Indianapolis 500. Everybody circles that race on their calendar. If you want to win one race a year, that's the one you want to win. And then finishing out the season, December 23rd at St. Louis, right outside. Well, it's Mount Moore, Illinois, but right outside St. Louis, and Worldwide Technology Raceway at the Oval there. So definitely a lot more racing to go as we're halfway after tonight. But we got this race here in front of us right now. We're at lap 29 of 200. We're under caution number 2, and last week's winner, Adriano Pinheiro, is led from start to lap 30 so far.
Yeah, he has. And Pinheiro, I think when he gets out front, he's, I think, second to none, really, and just his ability with the race car. And again, we see this pretty much week in, week out here from the driver of the number 56. Question, of course, is going to be whether or not, 200 laps is a long time from now. And on lap 30, these cautions can really start to trip you up. You can potentially run into some mistakes. We do know Alex Van de Sant, if he continues to trend in the direction he was heading last week, unbelievable on green flag pit stop cycles. If we get those, of course, those could potentially favor the driver, the number 1, the defending series champion. And, of course, Eric Troiano has been hanging on there in second all day as well. So not much movement in position around the top 3 here. But on that last restart, we did see Van de Sant potentially try to go to the outside of the 14. Once again, though, it's a great restart from Pinheiro. We look at second place because here goes Van de Sant looking to the outside of Troiano. And he's going to get his front wing just to the outside tire there of the 14, but not quite able to stay side by side. But he's going to get the run off of turn number 2. And look to the inside into 3 and 4. Van de Sant trying to move up into second position here on the restart.
Yeah, good racing here as we're back under green at the lap 31. Just got a few cautions out of the way. Hopefully that we can stay caution-free throughout the rest of the race.
Absolutely, that would be great to see here from these guys. Lap times running about 25-second lap times here for 200 laps. So we'll take a look and see, I guess, how long this race can obviously be prolonged quite a bit if there is issues, but kind of getting past the restart. Once you're maybe 2 or 3 laps past the restart, you're kind of in the clear, right? Where that whole, the whole theory of cautions, breeding cautions, starts to kind of disappear, where guys start to spread out just a little bit more, and you don't quite have the same repercussions for incidents and contact. But Pinheiro just continues to impress. Adriano Pinheiro's fastest lap of the race, which he just put down on this previous lap, is 0.3 of a second faster than anybody else's fastest lap of the racetrack. And for those of you who know oval racing, will just understand how unbelievable that kind of gap is that Pinheiro is able to pull on this racetrack right now. That is a huge chunk of time that he's got over the rest of this field. Honestly, it's true for anything, even road courses, but on an oval especially, when we're talking about a 25-second lap. Van de Sant finally responds there with 25.49, so just 0.2 of a second under Pinheiro, but unbelievable pace there from our current race leader. It's really just staggering how much he has over the rest of the field right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so far, we're starting to get the lead he's starting to build. There are only just looking down the field, there are 17 cars that are on the lead lap. So out of the 20 some that we had started, we're down to 17 that are still currently on the lead lap. So what a blistering pace that Adriano Pinero is setting this evening.
Yeah, that it is just kind of ridiculous here, and obviously some of these drivers involved in incidents or are getting trapped down a lap there. But yeah, it's going to be tough, I think, for any of these guys to get past Pinheiro here. Van de Sand's going to give it his best shot. That last time around, he did match Pinheiro's pace on one lap. On absolute best, though, he doesn't have much for the 56, but potentially over the course of a long green flag run, could Van de Sant close that gap, reel in the Brazilian driver as that gap sits at 1.2 seconds right now here on lap number 37. Remember that number as it looks like it's slowly creeping down here, at least coming off of the corners. Van de Sant seems to exit off of 4 very well. Does he exit off of 2 as well as he does off 4? It looks like he has good exits off corners, but diving into the corners seems to be where Pinheiro just has that advantage right now. So entry advantage Pinheiro, exit advantage Van de Sant. Over the course of a lap, balances out pretty much the same lap time, lap after lap. That last time, though, Pinheiro did gain a little bit more on the defending series champion.
Yeah, Pinheiro, I'm quite impressed so far with the way that the car is sticking to the bottom of the track there in the turns, and for people that may be new to racing, it's no secret that the quickest way around the track is getting to that bottom groove, and Pinheiro is doing that here for the most part through the first 40 laps.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll keep following that here as Troiano right now. Good gap, but still some pressure here from Joshua Chin behind. Chin with a good run down the back straightaway, down under 0.2 of a second just momentarily, and a bit of a bobble here off of 3 and 4 for Troiano, and I think that's going to give Chin a chance here into 1 and 2. Just a little bit loose there. It looked like the 14 car had to correct, and he's going to drop from 2nd to 4th in just the span of a couple of laps there. Chin goes by Troiano, but Troiano's not done with him just quite yet.
Yeah, it definitely looks like right now the battle is not up front, but the battle is for P3 and P4 there between Eric Toronto and Joshua Chin.
Absolutely there. So Troiano back in front of Chin. Chin trying the higher lines here. Trying to get a run onto the back straightaway. Doesn't quite get him there this time by, and a great kind of fight back there from Troiano. Mistake gave Chin an opportunity, but Troiano then quickly got back onto the gearbox of Chin's car, and back he goes into 3rd position here. Chin now 0.4 of a second behind. Close battle here on the racetrack. Another close battle is going to be for 7th here. Jared Rexing versus Jake Sylvia. Sylvia, we haven't mentioned his name much this season, but now he's looking to break into the top 7. He's already broken into the top 10 after qualifying all the way down in 22nd position. So outside the top 20 there, and he's looking to make moves forward here. He's had some good pace as well. 25.75, his best lap of the race. So not quite on the same tier as kind of Van de Sant or Pinheiro, but the rest of the drivers around him and in front of him, generally very similar pace, and even on these last couple of laps, he's been matching Jared Rexing, and here we go. 2 different lines here by these drivers, and he's trying something, trying to get any kind of advantage he can on the driver number 10.
Yeah, some great battles here towards the back of the pack, right there to the where positions 8, 9, and 10 are. And a side note, I absolutely love, and I don't know how you feel, but I absolutely love INDYCAR night racing, because some of the liveries that these Indy cars have, the way the stadium lights shine off of them, I think is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I will say you do bring that up, and I'm sure it's because of this car that you bring it up. There's certainly a shine off kind of the red on this Pioneer car by Sylvia that certainly has just a great look under the lights here at Homestead Miami Speedway. It is a fantastic looking race car, kind of just very simple livery, but very iconic to look at. And I mean, of course, you want to talk iconic. You've got the bright yellow Nesquik of Jared Rexing just in front of him. But yeah, no, absolutely agree here. Drivers, again, given kind of that creativity to come up with whatever race scheme they could ever want, and you can think of any legendary paint scheme and say, what would it look like if I put it on an Indy car? Just like Rexing does here with the old Jeff Green number 10 cars, and continues to rock that livery both in the Cup Series and here in the Mega Driver 86 Series.
And of course, you point out the Nesquik car. How can you go wrong with chocolate milk? You can't go wrong.
Absolutely cannot go wrong with that. But yeah, no, incredible paint schemes all up and down the field. Lots of color from these guys. Just sometimes a little bit unfortunate to be able to identify all the drivers. And I know myself and back when we were doing these with Mark Gillespie, we would often talk to drivers about some of their decisions with paint scheme and how dark some of them got to be. Very difficult to spot here in the nighttime. But something like Troiano's, I think that's fairly easy to spot there. The bright red of Texaco kind of stands out amongst the black livery.
It does. It reminds me not only I think about this past IndyCar season with the livery of the number 45 Jack Harvey Hy-Vee car, but then also too when you cross over to NASCAR and I look at the Texaco car, it reminds me of the old Davey Allison or Davey Hamilton, Davey Allison, car in IndyCar as well.
Absolutely, yeah. As we watch here, Chris Wright last week was battling foot injury. Had to park the car relatively early on, right foot injury. So, of course, modulating the throttle at a track becomes pretty tricky when you have that. But tonight, Wright is back out on the racetrack and looking pretty good here, running in P9, chasing down Jake Sylvia. Of course, we saw that battle earlier with Rexing and Sylvia. That's kind of broken up just a little bit here as the field continues to spread out as the laps tick down. But Chris Wright got relatively close there to the rookie from the United States, and both of those rookies there going at it right now for top position. Outside, of course, Joshua Chin there in the fourth. But it seems, based on the history we've heard of Joshua Chin outside of the Mega Driver 86 series, seems a little bit strange to call him a rookie in that regards, but still impressive what he's done in such a short span of time in this series. But yeah, Sylvia Wright battle on the track right now, opening up just a bit more as Sylvia gets back close to Jared Rexing. Kind of, the closest battle we have here on the racetrack, about 0.4 of a second between drivers. Joshua Chin looking like he's closing back in on Troiano, but nobody really within striking distance quite yet here on the racetrack.
No, there's not. And you talk about the injury that Chris Wright had last week, and I know you can talk about this as well, but I can't imagine trying to gut out a race in the condition that Chris was in, because think how much you have to use not only your left foot, but your right foot as well, and having a injury to your right foot is definitely going to slow you down for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously. Good for him to make the start of that race, pick up some points there for doing that. But it looks like we've got kind of back to regular service here with Chris Wright, and he's looked very impressive, I think, so far at moments of this year and of this season here in his first few races of IndyCar racing. Of course, another one of those guys who comes over from the Cup Series, huge amounts of success in Cup, in the Xfinity Series that we run on Monday nights as well. So comes in from all of that, obviously knows a lot of these tracks that we go to extremely well, but it's a completely different beast in the IndyCar, but he's taking to it pretty well. We saw that, with Tate Lytle. He was starting to take to it pretty well, of course, had the issue, but had good pace initially. Jared Rexing, another one of those guys who made the transition a few seasons back. Tyler Fody, probably the most successful of the guys who made the transition from kind of full-time Cup Series and Xfinity Series driving over to kind of trying out IndyCar. Fody not in the field at all this season. I don't think we've seen much of him, but has had successes, had race wins. Kind of seems strange to call Chad Frankenfield more of a Cup guy. I think he was probably an IndyCar guy before he was Cup, and then obviously got his championship in the Cup Series, which I think he's probably at this point more well known for his accomplishments in Cup, but one of those guys, kind of multidisciplinary, and that's one of the cool things we have here is we have guys jumping between cars, not just within kind of the scheme of NASCAR where you have guys running Cup, Xfinity, and trucks, but you have guys trying genuinely different disciplines here with the Indy cars.
Speaking of the drivers that are crossing over between the Cup Series and IndyCar, can you talk about, or maybe after the race, if we can get one of them on, the the driving that it takes to cross over? What the difference is between driving the iRacing Cup car to the iRacing IndyCar.
Yeah, we can potentially, if we get one of those guys finishing in the top 3, would be a great question to ask them. I can speak to it a little bit as I used to do that back in the day, not with much success in either series, I'll say, but did used to run in both the Cup Series and IndyCar Series simultaneously, and yeah, I mean it's tricky. They're completely different race cars. I think for myself, I come from a Formula car background. So the Indy cars were a little bit more intuitive to pick up, and the Cup cars are a completely different beast, or honestly any of those that kind of stock cars there, where you are kind of, you're making these kind of micro adjustments through the corner. The philosophy of the Indy car is smooth inputs. The philosophy in any open wheel car really is kind of smooth input. You're not really fighting it as much. I think IndyCar, relative to most other open wheel disciplines, you're fighting it more. But when you compare it to a stock car, it's a completely different beast here, especially on an oval, as we got a great little battle here kind of starting to heat up. But yeah, those stock cars, as Chris Wright goes on by Sylvia, those stock cars, you really are kind of adjusting everywhere around the racetrack. And so it feels like you kind of need to be a little bit more on the wheel in those. The Indy cars are more so you have to make that right call at the entrance of the corner and carry whatever that decision is through the corner, whether or not it was the right decision. Cup cars, you're changing what you're doing kind of every time you enter the corner, every time you're mid corner as well. So probably a bit of an outdated view on the way these two drive. It has been a little bit of a bit of time since I drove both or drove anything at a competitive level here. But yeah, I mean, that I feel like in my eyes summarizes the differences between these cars. But there's so much that these guys have to transition between when going from one to the next, especially if it's kind of the same track from week to week. You drive them in such different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm slowly learning the IndyCar here in the simulator that I have. So I haven't had the opportunity to try the Cup car yet. So I'm going to be interested to see if and when I do get that opportunity, just to see what the adjustments are from driving IndyCar to driving Cup. But I do want to give a shout out. I know we're only 65 laps in, but I remember the last time we talked to Joshua Chen after his dominating performance at Mid Ohio. And if you remember correctly, he wasn't too keen on the next two tracks that were coming up. Obviously, one of them was Nashville last week, and this one here at Miami Homestead. But so far, through the first 66 laps, you have to give it to him. He is holding his own.
Yeah, he certainly is, and he's running strong there in the 4th position. Right now, about a second behind Eric Troiano, about a second ahead of Nicholas Sudik. So very much kind of in his own race here as we watch this great battle between Rexing and Wright. What'll be interesting to see, of course, though, is what is his priority here? Is if he's thinking championship, Adriana Pinheiro leading the way. That's not exactly the sign you want to see. And yeah, I mean it's going to be tough, I think, for Chin to make progress on these guys ahead. But he's certainly doing a good job kind of separating himself from the cars behind. So solid night so far for the driver in the number 93. As Van de Sant is the first of our leaders on to pit road here after 48 laps since he came down pit road. Alex Van de Sant could kick off green flag pit stops.
Yeah, as he is on that button there to hit the pit road speed. It's going to be interesting to see if any of the other leaders, Pinheiro, Troiano, Chin, Sudik, etc., if they're going to follow suit and get on the same pit strategy that we're seeing from Alex.
Yeah, let's take a look here and see what the plan is for these drivers, as Van de Sant already down 1 lap. Will probably go down a second, as this is a long time on pit road for the championship leader. Was there damage on the one car that resulted in him coming down pit road. We might have to head to the Whiskey Cast replay here because that car is not moving.
Yeah, that does seem rather odd that he is in the pits as long as he is. Obviously, that can't be for routine service. So let's see what the Whiskey Cast replay tells us.
Absolutely. We'll see what we can find from Alex Vandesant. Didn't see anything on previous laps here either. I don't see any contact from this one car. Gonna take a quick look and see, and we'll run this last lap that he had here potentially under green. But there's no contact with the wall. As we're I guess we'll follow this here now as we'll watch. This is the replay here. This is the last lap that Vandesant was out on the racetrack. Take a look and see if there is anything. No contact with the outer wall there. No indication of any issue at all. And I watched the first couple of laps there. There goes that car, just dives onto pit road. Overshoots just a little bit, gets on the grass, but still he had already made the call to come down pit road at that point. And Vandesant deciding to simply call it a day there. But he is back out on the racetrack now, so I'm not really sure what happened to the one car. 48 seconds stationary, and the man who looked like he could challenge Pinheiro for a potential race win here is trying to get his lap back from that race leader here, as he's currently, what is he? He is running lap 70 now. He's 3 laps down.
Yeah, that is awful puzzling for Alex as we watched him just a few laps ago, had a clean lap. It looks like to all intents and purposes. Obviously, he got a little loose coming out of the grass there to hit pit road, but other than that, we didn't see anything that was out of ordinary for that stop. But it is kind of interesting that he was on pit road for as long as he was.
Alrighty, so Vandesant gonna be running around here trying to pick up some positions when he can, but here we go. More drivers coming down pit road. Eric Troiano, Nicholas Sudik, both on pit road. Our race leader, Adriano Pinheiro, dives onto pit road now as well. As Chris Wright will inherit the lead, I believe. Yes, he does. Yeah, so I mean, right timeline for Vandesant to hit pit road and to pick up tires, but just curious about what that long pit stop was, what happened to the defending series champion. Once again, kind of taken out of a race here that he was looking competitive in, and you just can't have those races. We talked about how short this season is. Just running out of opportunities here for Vandesant to go for 3 in a row. Pinheiro, that's more like it in terms of time on and off of pit road, but even that, a little bit long, 10.05 seconds for Adriano Pinheiro stationary on his pit box is not quite what you're looking for there, as Joshua Chin, coming off of pit road, who had pitted a lap earlier, comes off about 3.8 seconds there behind Pinheiro. So no real challenge, I guess, from him there, as here we go. Pinheiro gets on by Rexing and Balvans, who are on pit road. Hossack will get past, and Adriano, who's led every lap so far up until this point, back up into 4th position.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to hear, at some point, when Alex, after the race, he come down pit road for that, as we thought it'd be a routine stop, but it was unroutine, to say the least, and that may have hurt him in contention, not only tonight, but as you said, in the point standings down the road as well.
Yeah, for sure, and we'll potentially see if we can find an update on that. Unfortunately, no word really in the driver chat about what happened there, so can't quite speculate, I think, on anything that happened there for Vandesant. Bill Colley II currently leads the way. He was slightly off cycle from everybody else, if you remember. Came down pit road on the 2nd caution of the night. Most drivers came down on the 1st and stayed out for the 2nd. So Colley right now, probably a couple more laps before we expect to see him come down, hoping potentially here for a caution to come out. give him an opportunity to kind of make a make a play here, but he is going to have to dive down pit road. We saw Victor Del Porto do that to great effect last week. Trying to make it on fewer pit stops. Realized that strategy wouldn't work quite as well as he might have hoped, but caution came out, kind of bailed him out on that strategy. Came home for a very good P3 finish just 1 week ago here. Rare doubleheader here in the Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series. Bill Colley a little bit overshoots his box. Has to slide it back, and he'll get service there from the lead, and he hands that back over to Adriano Pinheiro, and all of a sudden, Joshua Chin, who was running in fourth, passes Troiano on and off of pit road, and of course with the issues for Van de Sant, Chin all of a sudden is in second place. 3.4 seconds the gap to Adriano Pinheiro. It's a big gap to the race leader, but that's kind of what you need there is even if you have kind of maybe the fourth fastest car, you're strong on and off of pit road, and of course issues for drivers in front, and you can certainly capitalize, and these are the kind of characteristics that you'd expect to be seeing from our two championship protagonists.
Yeah, don't look now, but as we've talked about through these first 4 races, the only 2 race winners that we've had through the first 4 races are now 1 and 2 as we are on lap 83 of 200.
All right, so relatively spread out field here as Alex Van de Sant looking to try and get past Bill Colley. Who's about 0.7 of a second up the road, so actually not even that close. I was going to say that's our closest battle here on the racetrack here after the cycle of green flag pit stops. But as it stands right now, relatively spread field here as guys settling into rhythm here, making sure they're hitting their fuel numbers, making sure they're not really brushing off too much from their tires. And we're going to use this opportunity then with kind of a little bit of a lull in the action. Talk to you folks at home about our fantastic sponsors here at the Elite Racing Network, and we'll start with those premier sponsors you see flipping through in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and we'll start with Brixi Cam. It's a venture-backed tech company based out of Toronto and Boston, and they're on a mission to reimagine the group photo experience. Gone are the days of carrying around a tripod or selfie stick. They help their customers and users tell better stories around meaningful moments. Also want to shout out TA Services. For over 36 years, TA Services has been a trusted domestic and international full-service third-party logistics provider offering freight brokerage, managed transportation, warehousing and fulfillment, and cross-border logistics services to shippers around the globe. Finally, want to shout out Blue Egg Marketing, the marketing department for small businesses. If you're a small business owner, then Blue Egg Marketing is your absolute biggest fan. Whatever your constraints are, they help catalyze creativity, and Blue Egg Marketing will help your business punch well above its weight class. Also want to shout out, haven't had this in a little while here in the Mega Driver 86 INDYCAR Series, but we have a race sponsor tonight. It's the Den Decor Depot 300 here at Homestead Miami Speedway, and Den Decor Depot, purveyors of fine vintage goods on Etsy.com since 2019. They're based on the foothills of the Pocono Mountains, so check out Den Decor Depot, who've been supporters of really all Elite Racing Leagues and All Elite Racing League Series for a little while now. Great to have them on board. And of course, Derek, here's a chance to talk about the Push to Pass podcast. Great to have you guys back on the screen as well.
Yeah, definitely love to have it up there as well. We just completed our first season of IndyCars that just wrapped up a little less than a month ago. If you go over to Facebook or Twitter and find Push to Pass there, you'll be able to find every episode 1 through 15 there. Obviously, we're in the off season of IndyCar, so we're still trying to put some plans together to maybe put some shows, maybe get some drivers on, talk about what they're doing in the off season as well. But we usually air Thursdays at 9 p.m. during the season. If we do a interview or two during the off season, it would be same time Thursday at 9 p.m. And we are glad to be here, glad to be brought on board.
Absolutely great having you guys with us, and yeah, always great to have more people fans here of the IndyCar Series. It really seems to have exploded in recent years in terms of just the fan involvement, and that's great to see there. More people getting on board with this series, and hopefully some changes. I think moving forward, especially with regards to some of these IR 18, or I guess IR 20 is now the official package name with the Aero screen, but But yeah, I mean, a lot to look forward to in the future of IndyCar. If they're making the right decisions, because the racing right now is great, but we all know that there's so many things that they can be doing that hopefully can give some better racing. Of course, the hybrid systems coming on board in just a couple of seasons. Looking forward to those. I've already heard some interesting stories from some friends I know, kind of who work on those, and they seem like they could be very interesting reliability-wise, especially early days. But potentially, again, just add another factor to the IndyCar racing that we'll have in a couple of years.
Yeah, speaking of IndyCar racing and viewership, not only did the new 2023 schedule come out this past week, but NBC Sports revealed or showed their numbers for viewership this year for the IndyCar Series there on NBC and their live streaming apparatus, Peacock as well, and they improved on last year's viewership by 5%. So huge kudos to everyone that tuned in, not only on NBC, but at USA Network. I know they have IndyCar races on there, and then the Peacock streaming service as well. So definitely viewership is on the up and up. A lot of things I think going to happen in 2023. A lot of talk, if you haven't picked up on it, with Kyle Busch going to RCR next year in the Cup Series. Well, it's not a secret that Kyle Busch for the longest has wanted to run not only the Indy 500, but the Coca-Cola 600, doing the double there on Memorial Day weekend. Well, a lot of chatter coming from the Arrow McLaren camp that they're going to add a fourth car. Yes, a fourth car next year, just for the Indy 500, and it sounds like everything goes according to plan. That is going to be Kyle Busch at Indy next May. So that'll be definitely interesting to see, and it could be on the horizon. Not to add more news to this, but Kyle Busch may not be the only Kyle potentially in the Indianapolis 500 next May.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, I'm assuming is who you're alluding to there. I mean,
that is correct. That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, those would be huge, and I think we've seen in the past, couple of years, or maybe this last year, not as much, but kind of a lot of star power coming towards the IndyCar series of guys trying it out. Of course, back in what was it, 2016, you had Kurt Busch making the play to do the double, of course. And then Fernando Alonso the following year, and subsequent years as well, bringing a huge amount of attention to the Indy 500 specifically, and so many other drivers making kind of that chance to try it out. Jimmy Johnson, of course, the most recent to try it out. That would be this year. Yeah, I guess this year was Jimmy's first 500 as well. So yeah, and that's great. I think for the series is there's so much respect, I think, for that event. That you have guys kind of wishing and hoping to do it. And I remember seeing, I think when RCR announcement came out for Kyle Busch, as he was saying the only person who ever said no to him about Indy 500 was his old team boss, or his current team boss, I suppose. And so that seems like it's always been on the horizon for him. And now, yeah, like you said, it certainly looks like an opportunity. Chevy team in the Cup Series could potentially line up there with a Chevy team in the IndyCar Series. Kyle Larson, another one of those Chevy drivers who could certainly play a factor. And I think that's, for me personally, I think that's one of the biggest questions I have with Kyle Larson is right. You kind of look at what he did in that 2020 season when he was off from the Cup Series, and just the level of success here. And I think many people, especially in the Cup atmosphere, were kind of deeming him kind of one of the best jack of all trades type drivers, and of course backed it up in 2021 with dominating series championship in the Cup Series. But I'd love to see him in more, again, kind of asphalt oval type series. I think on dirt, from my point of view, and this may get me some hate, but oh well, my Twitter mentions are open. I don't think the dirt fields were as competitive as some of these world-class series. And so maybe a little bit easier to win some of those races there for Kyle Larson. I'd love to see him there. We know already that IndyCar is a world-class, level, world-class tier of drivers. I would love to see how he stacks up there. We've seen drivers come in and find instant success. You'd imagine that both Kyles would kind of take that step, and they wouldn't really be struggling as rookies at the 500, but you never know. It's such a tricky track and car combination.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack there. I'll unpack that here shortly, but we just crossed the halfway point of the race. We're at lap 103, and Adriano Pinero still the class of the field with about 96 laps to go here. But yes, a lot to unpack there. You are right. A lot of talk about Kyle Larson potentially running the Indianapolis 500 this coming May. And then you talked about the drivers. There's been four, believe it or not, that have tried to complete the 1,100-mile race between the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon, John Andretti, and Kurt Busch. Now, out of those four, there's actually only been one that has been able to complete all 1,100 laps between both of those races, and that was Tony Stewart. So, and I will say too, the weekend that the Brickyard was here in Indianapolis, that's when you had the IndyCar road course here at the track as well, along with the Cup. And there was a lot of Cup guys watching the Indy cars on track, and then vice versa, a lot of IndyCar guys watching Cup cars on track. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see the next few years that crossover. And don't forget, this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, Connor Daly, who is in IndyCar, is actually running in the Xfinity Series this weekend as well.
I thought it might have even made it into Cup. I think he was running, but I'll have to double check on that one. But yeah, that's huge. And Connor, one of those guys who's had no secret interest in the Cup Series. There was actually a video a couple days ago of Rinus VeeKay, Connor's teammate, running in a Euro NASCAR car as well. And so yeah, I mean, I think what we're fortunately kind of approaching here is, you know, we've probably spent the last 20 years or so in kind of this hyper specialization of drivers, where you had a ton of drivers where they did one thing, one series, and that was their entire focus, and they were really good at that one series. And I don't quite know who opened the floodgates. To me, it almost feels like it was potentially Fernando Alonso, who was the first of this current generation of driver who said, I'm going to try and drive multiple top series championships. So he's run Formula One. He's won in WEC. He raced competitively in the Indy 500. And then I think a number of other drivers started to see and realize that, hey, you know, the talents I have in one series are going to translate pretty well over to some other series here. If I really am, that talented of a driver. And I think ever since 2017, we've been seeing more and more drivers crossing over in series. Maybe not as much in the F1 bubble of things, but especially in IndyCar. Of course, the IndyCar drivers will run in prototypes, but we're seeing some of them getting opportunities in Cup cars. Even in Formula One, Kimi Räikkönen had a chance in the Cup Series a couple weeks back at Watkins Glen. But there's just kind of there's much more openness, I think, about trying different series where it was maybe frowned upon as little as 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I want to correct something. You were absolutely right. Going back to look at Connor Daly's Twitter, you were absolutely right that it is the Cup Series this weekend, not Xfinity.
Yeah, spin on track there for Michael Hossack, who is running well up the order. Going to fall down now to 14th position is where he currently runs, and there's that incident. We've seen that already a couple of times, haven't we, where cars just getting loose off the racetrack. Generally, not too much action on the racetrack right now, folks. We'll keep you updated when we do see anything. But as it stands right now, Adriano Pinero about 4.8 seconds ahead of Joshua Chin, who in turn is another 3 seconds ahead of Eric Troiano. Troiano versus Sudik could be a close battle. We'll keep an eye out on that right now, 0.6 of a second. So Troiano in Sudik's vision. But not quite close enough to really make any kind of moves. So with that, sorry, Derek, we'll kind of get back to you on that.
Yeah, definitely. A good racing so far for the first 113 laps. It was kind of caution led the first few, but then the drivers have been able to settle in a little bit. got into a little bit of a groove, and it's been since then all Panero, all the time. It seems like so. The laps are ticking down one by one, and it's going to be interesting to see if there's anybody else in the field has anything for Adriano Panero, or if he's going to make it two in a row.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to see otherwise, but we do know how quickly that late race cautions and certain things can change that. So nothing out of the question right now for any of this action here in the race. Again, 115 of 200, still so much to play for these drivers. As we watch right now, Nicholas Sudik, Joshua Chin, gonna bring his car down onto pit road. Make sure he gets slowed down in time. He does. And this could kick off our next round of pit cycles. So Chin comes in from second, maybe trying to get a little bit of an undercut there on Pinheiro. I wonder how effective that'll be for him, as there definitely is pretty significant drop-off in tire wear there, about a second worth of drop-off. So I wonder how quickly it takes for the 56 to react, but it's also about, we said it, 4.8 second gap between the two. So Chin will need quite an advantage, as Troiano, though, is certainly going to be the one who wants to react there to Chin, maybe give himself an opportunity if he's better on and off of pit road here, pitting in just a different lap there. So Sudik and Murphy now take up the second and third positions. Chris Wright in fourth, as Pinheiro continues to lead, and no indication that the 56 car's planning to come down pit road just yet.
Yeah, going to be worth watching to see how many more laps Pinheiro is going to stay out there before he comes in for his service. Like we said here with Chen, he was in P2 before pitting. He now has come out P9. Is that strategy going to pay off? We'll just have to wait and see. But Pinheiro tonight so far, from start to finish, so far at lap 119, has been the head of the field so far.
Yeah, for sure here. And another thing we're going to keep an eye out for as well is, likely still one more stop for these guys here heading towards the end of this race. 80 laps to run, probably split that up pretty evenly, 40 and 40, which kind of fits about what we saw, I think, in the first stint as well as this most recent stint here. About 50 laps maybe run as, car spinning on the main straightaway. Who was that? Why does this never show up here? Trying to see who that slow car is. Bill Colley, slow on the racetrack, no caution though.
Yeah, let's go to the replay and see that, because as Pinheiro was passing Colley, you've seen the smoke come from him. Hopefully people were able to catch that, so hopefully be able to see here in the Whiskey Cast replay what exactly took place.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure this was the car that we saw running slow on the racetrack. We'll take a look here at Bill Colley. It might have been contact there between two cars there. That was Colley as well as the 44 car of, who the heck is that? Who made contact there with the 04? We'll head back to the Whiskey Cast replay. And these dark liveries, man, are hard to spot.
Is 44, is that Michael Goodman?
Oh, excuse me. No, it might have actually been the 14 car that I just missed here. So that might have been Eric Troiano that we actually saw.
That would really hurt. That would really hurt him if that's the case.
Yeah, and I think it is. There is Troiano. And that, I think, is the car that we saw there off the racetrack. And he just come out of pit road there, was chasing down Joshua Chin. And Troiano, a spin, though, that we saw on the racetrack. So not entirely sure. There was another incident, I think, out on the racetrack, but multiple things happening at that point. But there you go. Eric Troiano, he doesn't come down pit road either, so maybe sussing out the damage on that 14 car. But I think eventually he's going to have to. No, I mean, live pictures here. He's still out on the racetrack, so kind of craziness there as drivers switching, and that's kind of the concern, right? Is when you do pit, especially under green flag conditions, is that difference in pace, and I think we saw that there. Troiano It was hard to tell if it was on Troiano, if it was really on Colley, but just misjudging the gap between the cars and the closing speed between the cars. And all of a sudden for Troiano now running down in the 7th position, well off the pace, just nursing that car back around the racetrack. I mean, surely he has to come down pit road here. There's no front downforce with half the wing missing.
Yeah, you would think, and also something else I want to point out that I seen too. Did you see how that car hop, the front of it hop when it hit the rear end of Colley? So how much damage is that going to cause? The front obviously not having a wing, but with that car hopping, what's that causing the car to do as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of questions there as Adriano Pinheiro, race leader, comes down pit road, hands that off once again to Chris Wright. Wright slightly off schedule as, oh, actually, here we go. Pinheiro overtaken by Joshua Chin, and that's kind of that undercut strategy. The question now, of course, is going to be, what does Pinheiro have to close that gap back up? Because it's 3 seconds. Joshua Chin, we kind of said you'd have an undercut, you'd have an advantage. But yeah, it is interesting that Pinheiro didn't respond as quickly as he did because he's given him up track position to Joshua Chin. But he does have a significant pace advantage now. So this could be an interesting couple of laps now because for the first time, Pinheiro not ahead in terms of just pure, race pace. But in theory, should have the advantage here over the 93. But we'll see if he can close that gap. 2.2 seconds now. And it's kind of swung in favor of Joshua Chin as it stands.
Yeah, it absolutely has, and you got to think Joshua Chen is going to be out there, a full tank of gas right now, cleaner tires than what Pinheiro has. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep up this pace until he does decide to come down pit road, because right now Chin has the better tires and the fuller tank of gas at this point.
Yeah, this is going to be going to see how this plays out as Pinheiro. I mean, there you go. The pace advantage that Pinheiro just put down is ridiculous. Half a second faster than Joshua Chin, and now the gap 1.4 seconds. Looks like he's going to take another chunk out of time. That's the advantage, right, that you have as the 56 car. The problem is it's a little bit risky, of course. You are giving up that track position, but this is kind of what we expect to see here, and we'll watch here on board with Pinheiro as he's going to close in on Chin. And there's that car you can see, just flashing in the distance, 1.5 seconds up the road. But Pinheiro's got some work to do to try and get by. As the caution comes out, though, it's going to nullify the field. We'll see here. This should still help Pinheiro, but man, oh man, take a look and see what brought out this third caution of the night.
Yeah, let's definitely see that. Brought to you by Whiskey Cast.
Here just Castro Neves just spins it around there. Stays on the racetrack just briefly, and around he goes, and that's enough to bring out the caution. I feel like that's one of the lighter incidents we've seen here tonight, and we've definitely seen some other ones not bring out the yellow, but one way or the other, coming off of turn number 4, issue for Castro Neves. Gets it rolling, though, and no significant damage on that car, so everybody back on the racetrack. And now the question, of course, is 70 laps to go. Can you make it to the end of this race? I would assume no. And that would seem to be the agreement from many other drivers. But here we go. Joshua Chin coming down pit road. I think he's already realized that potentially his strategy didn't quite work, and he's now going for that tire advantage over the rest of the field. Nicholas Sudik, Chris Wright could be big winners from this, as they all pitted relatively late. Wright pitted right before the caution came out. And so he's got some of the freshest tires in the pack. Nicholas Sudik, a little bit older tires. Their lap 118 is when he last came down pit road. But he's going to line up second here. So guys making that call for track position. Meanwhile, you have Chin, Troiano, Murphy, Rexing, Sylvia, all making the call for fresh tires here. So a little bit of a split strategy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which call is going to be the right call here. Is we're at lap 132, and I do believe Pinheiro still needs to come in. So at what point, what lap is he going to give the lead up to come in for potentially his last stop?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to be fair, I think everybody is going to have to pit one more time, even those that pit on this caution, just because of how far we are away from um, from the end of this race. But all things that we'll get a chance to look at when we go back to green. But cars on and off of pit road there made their calls. We're actually going to step away here for just a moment, be back with you guys as we get back to green flag racing. Hopefully, we'll see that green flag for the last time tonight, and we'll take it 70 laps to the finish. All right, and we are back here at Homestead Miami Speedway, running lap 135 of 200. About to tick over to lap 136 when the green flag waves. Adriana Pinheiro gets back in front there. Ahead of Nicholas Sudik, Chris Wright, Joshua Chin back and forth, but on the freshest tires of just about anybody else. Or at leads that group of drivers with fresh tires. So we're back to green flag racing here. Pinheiro, Sudik, Wright. As Wright has to get by a couple of lapped cars there. Also has to fend off Joshua Chin on even fresher tires. But yeah, here we go. This is where things get interesting, I think, in this race. Chin has a little bit of a tire advantage now over Pinheiro, but of course, track position back in the favor of Pinheiro. Chin's going to have to work his way around Wright and Sudik. He gets by Wright here. Will he clear? He does. So now has just Sudik in his eyesight. This is going to clear a couple of lap cars there. Alec Balvan's going to go down a lap to Joshua Chin. And kind of momentum swings maybe a little bit here as Chin becomes the chaser again on fresher tires. Reminder, though, that everybody in the field will still have to make one more pit stop before the end of this race, whether that's under caution, whether that's under green. Probably expect that to happen, that window to open at least within the next 10 laps. So even a caution here, if it happened within 2 or 3 laps, you'd probably still be just outside of that window to make it to the end of this race. So something to just keep in mind for now. Pinheiro gapping up front there. Great on these initial restarts. Pinheiro, unbelievable pace kind of when he needs it. He'll kick into kind of a high gear to kind of settle in and create a gap, and then kind of maybe just dials back that engine a little bit and just kind of settles into a groove. But first lap after a restart, Pinheiro is by far the fastest man on the racetrack at any given moment. Nicholas Sudik already 1.2 seconds back. Joshua Chin has 1.8 seconds to catch the 87. You'd imagine that Chin, with an over 10 lap advantage in terms of tires, should make that pass on Sudik in short time. We'll watch as that gap goes down between those two. But yeah, Joshua Chin right now looking to kind of recover, get back in second, and maybe tackle Pinheiro. Mark Murphy, we watch here, trying to battle with Chris Wright. But a lot of action on this restart as guys kind of going to get settled in, hopefully for a green flag run all the way to the end of this one.
Yeah, hopefully, Pinheiro has been the head of the field so far in the first 141 laps. But again, I do believe he needs to pit, so he is definitely stretching out that pit strategy as far as he can. But I think he's still going to need to come in for just one more stop.
Well, yeah, I think everybody in the field is going to have to come in for that one more stop. Of course, it's going to be when that happens. We saw that undercut work for Joshua Chin. Does he come in when that window opens up? Of course, it makes you susceptible to a caution, but you saw just how much of a pace advantage it could provide you if you are trying to make that jump in terms of position. So, yeah, a lot still to play for these drivers. One green flag pit stop for everybody, and we'll see again how kind of different drivers tackle that when that lap kind of is, because they are going to have a pretty wide window here to make it to the end. Basically up until probably about 20 laps to go is when that window will close. So Joshua Chin still chasing down Nicholas Sudik, not making as much headways as he might have been hoping for with that tire advantage that he has. Sudik doing a fantastic job holding on right now, pace-wise. Not quite able to match Pinheiro, but more critically, he's matching what Joshua Chin is doing, and that's maintaining that gap there, not allowing for Chin to close up. Meanwhile, here we go, Jared Rexing up into the top 5 as Chris Wright. Not a great restart there for him. And we're seeing, interestingly enough, just the difference between kind of what one heat cycle on your tires does, versus these totally sticker tires on Jared Rexing, on Murphy, on Chin, making quick work of Chris Wright, despite the fact that Wright really has kind of the freshest tires that had kind of already been scrubbed when the caution came out. So again, just a little bit of extra information to keep an eye out for those guys on pit road. At this point in the race, strategy-wise, maybe you're not thinking that as much, but maybe a late race caution, it comes into your thought process of okay, sticker tires are really that much better than scrubbed ones, and could be something that factors into your decision making late in this race. All right, Mark Murphy heads Jared Rexing, heads Chris Wright. Little three-way battle on track right now. Closest battle on track right now, Rexing versus Murphy. Troiano trying to come back at Jake Sylvia. A reminder that Troiano had that damage earlier on in the race with contact with Bill Colley II. And Troiano, guy who had qualified second, had been running in the top 3 pretty much all race long. Unfortunately, right now having to kind of recover and try and regain the positions that he lost there after that contact. Sylvia versus Wright, and Wright continues to, I think, struggle just a little bit here. Actually, excuse me, no, that is Sylvia versus Troiano, is the gap that I was reading there. Troiano continues to close that gap on Sylvia. And here we go, on board with driver number 14, qualified P2. A lot of pace in this 14 car. Just race hasn't played out the way he was wanting for it. We'll see how much he can recover. He is back, of course, on the lead lap. I think that caution really saved him. He might have been hoping for that there, because we saw that car off the pace and he didn't come down under green to get it repaired. So he was driving around with half that front wing missing, maybe not obviously feeling it, the lack of downforce on the front end. Gets that replacement. A little bit of snap there off of turn number 2, but for the most part 14 car is starting to look as good as new, and right now has a solid pace advantage over Sylvia. I wonder if he gets by, if he can also find his way past Chris Wright, as he does get by Jake Sylvia. Troiano into 7th position now, as he continues to recuperate positions. A little bit faster on that most recent lap than Chris Wright, as well as Jared Rexing. So could a top 5 still be on the books for Eric Troiano? It's 2.5 seconds up the road to Rexing, as Sylvia kind of makes a little bit of a late lunge there. And he's going to make Troiano's life just that little bit more difficult coming off of 4. But for now, as it stands, Troiano clear of Sylvia and able to try again, eating into that gap. 1.8 seconds to Chris Wright, and a further 0.7 of a second to Jared Rexing. So 2.5 seconds. Can he close that? Seems right now that he has the pace advantage over those 2 drivers in front of him. So Troiano 1.2 now to Chris Wright, and you can definitely tell that the advantage is with that 14 car. Yeah, pace-wise, I think that 14 car is as good as new. 25.9, that most recent lap. That was, in fact, the fastest lap run by anybody on that most recent lap. So Eric Troiano back kind of in this equation here. Again, has had such a strong night up until the incident. And now within 1.5 seconds of Jared Rexing. So a second pulled off from that 10 car in just a few laps. Impressive pace here from the Brazilian, looking to recuperate from the night. And I think a top 5, he can be very proud of that effort. Wonder if he can go even further. Mark Murphy now currently sits 3 seconds up the road from Troiano. Joshua Chin a further 5.5 seconds. The podium may be just out of touch there. For Troiano, barring any kind of barring any changes, but yeah, I mean, top 5 would certainly be impressive. Potentially top 4 there for Troiano still on the cards.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I figured it works a little better if I unmute, but but yeah, what a drive so far with a little less than, or a little over 40 laps to go. The incident Troiano was in earlier, and he has worked his way out of that hole now into a top 10 position, maybe eyeing a top 5 position. So what a drive tonight for Eric Troiano.
Yeah, for sure. This is a great recovery here that he's making. As here we go. We've got some potentially some good little racing going on here, because you got Chris Wright on those older tires defending from Jared Rexing, and Troiano lurking in the background here. Wright, the more he defends from Rexing, the more that plays into the hands of Eric Troiano, and a great little battle going on here on the racetrack now. Right, again, just crazy to think. This is a 4-lap difference in tires here. Chris Wright seems to just be really struggling. Once he got the heat cycle into those, let them cool down under caution, tried to get them back up to temp, just not as effective, these Firestone tires for Chris Wright, and we're seeing this right now where it's just he just simply isn't able to be as effective maybe as he wants to be versus some of these drivers. And is this a call now to come down pit road? It is. So Chris Wright deciding he's done with these. He's bailing off, and with 40 laps to go in this race, he's in the window to come down to pit road, kind of right at the start of this window. And interesting enough, yeah, there you go. It kind of goes into what I was saying, where just I don't think he was happy with where that car was handling.
Yeah, he must have been listening to you on his in-car radio, because, just as you were talking about the ineffectiveness of the current tires he has on, you see him peel off and potentially go and make a tire change. So, he was listening to you all along.
I guess so there. So, potentially smart move there from Chris. And he'll get the undercut, of course, and probably gain some track position here early on. Question, of course, is going to be how those tires fare towards the end of their life. He will be on the oldest tires once again at the end of this race. But still, we'll find out here. Lot to play for, but that track position could be advantageous again for Chris Wright, depending on how things play out. Jared Rexing following suit. He's decided to respond to Wright's decision to hit pit road. So there's Chris Wright, Jared Rexing. A little bit further up the road, we'll see how these guys blend. There's that yellow car there on the left-hand side of your screen. Rexing gonna try, and not quite able to get there. And so it will be Wright maintaining that position over the 10 car. 1 lap difference in tires. So evens out the playing field, and for Chris Wright, that's about as perfect as it gets. That's how you want to play the strategy. Force Rexing to respond. If you can maintain that track position, you've now taken away the tire advantage that Rexing had. It was 4 laps, it's now 1 lap.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just looking at the leaderboard, somebody that we talked about earlier that had some issues in the pits has worked their way up. So huge, shout out to Alex Van de Sant. He had an interesting pit stop earlier in the race. We both were kind of going back and forth, wondering what else was being done to that car. Well, he has worked his way back up through the field. He is now currently in the top 10 at 8th.
Yeah, good recovery there from Van de Sant. Unfortunately for him, still trapped down 1 lap. As Adriano Pinheiro quite some ways ahead of those lap down cars. And of course, Van de Sant still yet to make his stop, as is Pinheiro, so he'll stay trapped down a lap. But yeah, back inside the top 10. Can be proud of that effort for sure. He still has his sights, though, set on Cesar Cabral. Could make some headway, get up into 7th there. But then it's a further 19 seconds up the road to Jake Sylvia, and unless there's a certain wave around that works out in his favor, if a caution comes out, that might be the best that Van de Sant can hope for tonight. But try to capitalize on what opportunities you do get. Of course, again, curious. I think a second week in a row there where it feels like a potential missed opportunity at a win there for Alex Van de Sant. Last week, curious strategy call late in the race to pick tires over track position in a race that was dominated by track position. And tonight, of course, that long first pit stop of the night under green flag conditions cost him a lap. And while he is back out on racetrack and running just about as strong as he was when he was running in second, obviously not quite the same there, and not quite the hope he was, the race he was hoping for there. But still a lot to play for. Can certainly keep things alive. Championship-wise, maybe a little bit trickier to compete, especially when you look at, really, it's been a 2-man race up front for the championship between drivers running first and second right now in this race. Could be tough to catch up to them, but maybe best of the rest, or could certainly put on a heck of a second half of the season to close back down on that gap. As Nicholas Sudik comes down pit road, what a stint by him. He was one of those guys who stayed out, and we were talking about it with Chris Wright, had a heat cycle already on his tires when they restarted, but it didn't really seem to phase him. Sudik maintained a gap to Joshua Chin, and comes off pit road there now with fresh tires. Will still have a little bit of a tire disadvantage to those around him, but if he can maintain his track position and do exactly what he did on that last stint, you could be looking at a fantastic P2 finish there from Sudik. What a drive that would be from the driver number 87 as Chin responding to Sudik on pit road now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is probably going to be obviously our last round of stops. So, at what point does the leader peel off and complete his last pit stop as we're under 30 laps to go?
Yep, absolutely here. So Joshua Chin on his marks. Nice and quick. You see that car drop down, and he's away. So now we're just waiting on Pinheiro. And if you're Adriano Pinheiro, surely in the back of your head, you're thinking, maybe I do come down a little bit sooner instead of just waiting this one out. Of course, he did have that tire advantage, but I don't know how I feel about giving up track position in that respect there. Stays out for another lap here as Eric Troiano comes on to pit road. But Pinheiro, I feel like, has got to respond here to Chin. You don't really want to risk giving up that track position because you don't know how this race could end. And you may be taking away laps from yourself to fight back if that kind of crossover takes place. On and off of pit road, timing has typically been around 40 seconds. So that's kind of the magic number you look for when you look at Joshua Chin. And right now he is exactly 40 seconds behind Pinheiro and closing pretty rapidly. If Pinheiro were to come down pit road right now, I'd imagine they would blend very close together on the racetrack. Of course, that time that we have on timing and scoring doesn't really take into account the length of pit road, so you probably say 35 seconds, if not maybe even a little bit less than that. But still, I feel like you're kind of in the window right now where Joshua Chin has a very realistic chance to attack the 56 car.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's going to be interesting at the end of the race if we are able to, talk to Adriano Pinheiro as he looks like he's coming down pit road. So he is going to give the lead up. Let's watch his stop here.
Yeah, absolutely. Pinheiro on pit road, but critically, as Pinheiro diving down into pit road, as he left this too late because Joshua Chin just put in the fastest lap of the race. That's one lap back from Chin. He now has to go around 25 seconds, 26 seconds around this Homestead Miami Speedway. Adriano Pinheiro still rolling into his stall up on the jacks. And now we will wait and see Joshua Chin through 3 and 4. Adriano Pinheiro just now starts getting rolling and on board with Joshua Chin. Yeah, we're going to take a look to the left-hand side of your screen. Look for that orange car. You can see it just barely on your screen coming off of pit road. This could be advantage Chin, at least initially. There's Pinheiro in your eyesight. You're going to have a little bit of a head of steam here towards the 56. Has Pinheiro done just enough? Has he played out this gap perfectly so that he not only has fresh tires but track position? I think he has, because that car should be back up to speed. Pinheiro, he is. And there you go. Still able to maintain 1 second ahead of Chin. And that might have just been played out as well as it could have for Adriano Pinheiro, because I think if he left that one lap later, Chin would have been by and it would have been Pinheiro fighting back to get past.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That may have been right there the move of the race that could potentially put Adriano Pinheiro in for win number 3 on this season. But we have 22 laps left here to decide that.
Yeah, the only question now, of course, is that Nicholas Sudik comes into the equation. We talked about him getting that undercut, and what an undercut it was that he has right now over Pinheiro and Chin. 1.7 seconds the gap to Adriano Pinheiro, who did just put in the fastest lap of the race. So that gap closing rapidly, half a second the previous lap, and another 0.4 of a second this most recent lap. Pinheiro putting in monster lap times late in this race to close the gap up to Sudik. But yeah, I mean, Nicholas Sudik giving himself a chance here. Caution comes out, potentially giving yourself an opportunity. But you'd imagine at this point here, Pinheiro, just like it was with Chin on the last round of pit stops, Pinheiro should be able to close that gap. But we also know how effective Sudik can be on older tires. And all of a sudden, Pinheiro, 2 flying laps, that most recent lap, more or less a similar lap time to Sudik, only about 1/10 of a second quicker. We'll see. He's going to eat away at this, but with 20 laps to go, it could still be a bit of a race, and that advantage is going to become less and less the closer he gets to Nicholas Sudik. Has Sudik potentially played a bit of a strategy masterclass here, kind of going a little bit under the radar? He saw it work with Joshua Chin And again, we know Sudik very good on these older tires and able to maintain his pace over the course of a run. Still advantage slightly to Pinheiro, but maybe not closing as quickly as he'd be hoping right now.
Yeah, just watching that gap, and it's obviously shrinking second by second. This is going to be I thought it was going to be, but Sudik just got a little bit of a gap, but Pinheiro is shrinking that gap second by second. This is going to be down under 1 second here shortly.
Absolutely. As we look here, previous laps between our race leader, Nicholas Sudik, and Adriano Pinheiro. So obviously quicker from Pinheiro, especially those initial laps. But that gap, maybe not closing as quickly as you'd be hoping. It'll be in 10 laps is realistically striking distance then from Pinheiro if he keeps this pace advantage, and then that gives him just 7 laps to overtake on a track that's maybe not the easiest to overtake with, especially if that advantage goes away. So race far from over, and with 16 to go, Derick, here's a chance to make your pick for who the race leader is, as even on lap time between Sudik and Pinheiro that last time by.
Yeah, it looks like the Pinheiro can get that down under 1 second as it is now. But Sudik does have the ability to slightly pull away, and then Pinheiro has to make up that ground. But as you see, looking at the lap times there, Pinheiro is definitely charging hard.
Yeah, he is. I think this most recent was a big gain. It was. So who's your pick then, Derick, for the race win? Is it Sudik? Is it Pinheiro? Is it somehow Joshua Chin a little bit further behind? Could we see a late race caution decide this one? Who are you going to take to pick up the checkered flag here at the Decor Depot 300?
I'm going to take the guy that's been the head of the class all race, hard charging. I'm going to take Adriano Pinheiro.
Fair enough, and it's hard to bet against this driver right now as he continues to close in on our race leader, but Nicholas Sudik has intrigued me with this strategy. Again, remember his last stint, one of the best drivers on old tires, able to run just about as strong as Joshua Chin was on those. When Joshua Chin had fresh tires, Sudik had slightly older tires, already had a heat cycle in them. It's going to be close between these guys. It's close already, but Sudik, I think he can hold on here, maybe, just maybe, pull off a win here and break this pattern of Pinheiro and Chin as our only race winners, but it may be over already as Pinheiro side by side with Nicholas Sudik. The pace advantage back in the favor of the 56 car. He got the draft, and he's back on by here. Sudik, what can he do to respond, or is he going to have to settle for second?
It's going to be interesting to see how he responds. As you can see, Pinheiro doing the best he can to block him, take out that draft. But it looks like Sudik isn't going anywhere quite yet.
Yeah, not quite yet for Sudik. What a job he's doing. Hanging on right now with Adriano Pinheiro, who really has been unquestionably the most dominant driver of the night. But yeah, Sudik, what a job he's done coming in late into this race. Got up here a little bit on strategy, thought it through, stayed out on the last caution of the race, and got that track position, maintained that gap, didn't let anybody get close to him, and is now fighting for the lead of this one with 11 laps to go.
Yeah, he is, and as you see, the gap there is slightly growing lap by lap, so Sudik may just have to hang on to a P2 at this point.
For sure. 1 second now, the gap, and Pinheiro seems to be back in his own league. It was interesting there for a moment. It looked like Pinheiro had kind of lost that advantage that he had over the rest of the field, and then just once again seemed to just find that overdrive. Half a second faster than Sudik on that last lap, half a second faster than Chin as well on that last lap, and so Pinheiro, just time and time again throughout this race, every time he's been asked, he has delivered in terms of putting together this race win. If he can pull it off here. 9 laps to go, ticking over to 8 laps to go at Homestead Miami Speedway. Could he start off this season with 3 from 5? That would be an impressive feat for sure. But still a number of laps to go here, and this is where you get nervous, of course, as a driver. You start thinking, oh man, what if there's a caution potentially? How do you play that out? If there is a caution right now, does this race even finish under green? I think we'd maybe get 1 or 2 laps, but But yeah, I mean, this is just those are all these things going in the mind of your head as a driver. You're thinking, is there any traffic up the road as we look in car on Pinheiro? Is there? No, he's got clear track ahead for the most part. One car just in front, but I don't know if he'll get there within the next 7, maybe, just maybe. So you're just thinking here, what are the possible things that could derail this? But 6 laps to go. It's been hard to derail, I think, Adriano Pinheiro from anything tonight, because every single time there has been any adversity for any reason for the 56 car, he's responded in such spectacular fashion.
Yeah, unless there is a late caution, I think we can start etching Adriano Pinheiro his 3rd win of the season. And if he does hang on here in the next 5 laps or so, it's interesting. First win came at the Michigan International Speedway. His 2nd win last week came at the Nashville Super Speedway, and he is now 5 laps away from winning this race here at the Homestead Miami Speedway. So far, I think we can safely say that when it comes to speedways, the king of the speedway this year in 2022 is Adriano Pinheiro.
So Pinheiro, impressive start to the season so far. It was a first, a fourth, a first. And so far, it's been trending in the direction of another first. 3 laps to go off of turn number 4. As he continues to gap this field with just incredible pace. Once again, Adriano Pinheiro, the fastest man on the racetrack. Nicholas Sudik, a couple of tenths slower. Joshua Chin, actually a couple of tenths quicker, but obviously already 5 seconds down the road. Eric Troiano, what a recovery drive he's had. Up into 4th position. Mark Murphy running in 5th. It's been a quiet night for the drive number 69 car, but what a drive he's had. Up 18 positions from his starting spot of 23rd. Unbelievable drive by him. Jared Rexing up 7 into 6th. We've talked about him a number of times tonight. Chris Wright as well. Recovery from from last week there of that foot injury. Jake Sylvia in his first start also looking incredibly strong. Cesar Cabral and Alec Balvans rounding out that top 10. But for Adriano Pinheiro, he's going to take the white flag here for the Decor Depot 300. It was never really in question, was it? Because Adriano Pinheiro just had the pace all night long from pole, leading the most laps, lost the lead a couple of times on green flag pit stop cycles, but he got that back just as quickly as he lost it. And for back-to-back weeks here, Adriano Pinheiro victorious at these intermediate type ovals down to the bottom of the racetrack. Adriano Pinheiro is 3 for 5 in 2022B, extending his championship lead. What a drive once again from the Brazilian driver. Nicholas Sudik going to bring it home for 2nd position. Joshua Chin closing that gap on Sudik. Not quite enough, but a great drive there from him to kind of get his championship battle back on track there. First time for Chin. Not victorious. His first start that doesn't end in a victory. Mark Murphy, Eric Troiano, your top 5. As the rest of the field comes through to finish it up. And yeah, what a race there that was. Incredible drive from Adriano Pinheiro as he's going to burn it down on that front straightaway.
Yeah, congratulations to Adriano for a 2nd straight win. What a drive. And as you said, out of the first 5 races now, we are halfway home. And he is, 2 different winners so far. He has won 3 times, and Joshua Chin, who podiums again, has the other 2 wins. But what a drive from start to finish for Adriano Pinheiro this evening.
Yeah, incredible driving there, and I think that's one of those performances that is sometimes hard to appreciate when you're watching it at home. But for us, I mean, getting to witness what he did on the timing screens is just incredible. The sheer pace that Adriano Pinheiro had over the rest of this field is just unbelievable. And well, we'll talk to the first of our top 3 finishers here right now. We'll bring in Joshua Chin. Joshua, a heck of a race there tonight, up 3 positions to grab that podium. Of course, some drivers who qualified in front running into misfortune, but a great way to capitalize on that run tonight. But Talk to us. Did you have anything for Adriano there? We did see kind of before that last caution came out, you were able to get by on pit strategy, and it would have been close pace wise between the two of you. But how did that race play out? Do you think you maximized the performance you had in the car?
Oh, I think a second was on the table for sure if that last caution didn't come out, but then had to kind of go for something different on strategy just to have a shot at it. And then the a lot of lap cars just didn't want to get out of the way when there were multiple laps down for whatever reason. I don't really know why. It was fairly disrespectful, and people just kind of seem to be blocking for their friends. So frustrating, but third place is still a good result. Doesn't really help the championship that much with Adriano winning, but hopefully Road America coming up can get some more positions on him and not have lap cars trying to mirror drive each other for 20 laps in front of us.
Joshua, last time we spoke, you were the winner there at Mid Ohio, and you talked about the next two races not being in your wheelhouse, Nashville and Homestead, Miami. Here, I would say they must be in your wheelhouse because you just came home with a third place finish tonight.
Yeah, it definitely helped that some guys ran into misfortune. Alex was really fast, and I think he had a solid podium for sure. And there were one or two other guys that kind of had pace, but didn't know how to manage the tires and fell off pretty early on and was able to keep ahead of them. But um, I definitely wouldn't say it's it's definitely not the best race of the season by far. But the consistency is nice to have and be able to get a third place out of it after what was kind of a mediocre feeling run up until probably halfway is really nice to have. And having the pit strategy kind of work out well and have that in the back pocket is something that can go to later in the season and other speedway is nice to have as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you said, still a very strong run, and want to give you the chance here as third place finisher to make some shout outs while we have you here on the air.
Gotta thank everyone at Private Label, Team Hype, Team Chimera, and Team Talent, especially Connor and Jason for spotting me tonight and getting me through the strategy calls. Jason says that he lost me second place with the caution pit stop strategy. I don't think he did. I think he had a great call on pit stops for the most part tonight. So hard to argue with it, and we'll go to Road America and hopefully win it.
All right, congratulations, P3 finish, Josh Chin. Uh, Looking forward to seeing you back on track next week, or in 2 weeks' time, excuse me.
Thank you guys.
All right. Good run there from Joshua. Understand his disappointment, especially when you start out with back-to-back wins. You kind of set the bar pretty high for yourself, but nothing to sneeze at there and with a third place finish. And we'll bring in second place finisher then, Nicholas Sudik. Nicholas, heck of a drive there from you tonight. Able to kind of capitalize, I think, on that late race caution, and to me, honestly, the most impressive was that stint, that second to last stint that you ran right after the caution there, maintaining the gap to Joshua on fresh tires, despite running on about 10 lap older tires. And from other guys that we saw, it looked like once you put a heat cycle into those, let them cool down again and kind of go back at it, they weren't quite as effective, but that didn't really seem to be affecting you. You seem to be kind of the exception to the rule there.
Yeah, thank you very much. I definitely was kind of conserving a bit there early on in the stints. Miami in any vehicle, but especially in this car, is very notorious for frying the right front, coming off of two and coming off of four. So I was backing off way early, losing some time early on, but I think that kind of conservative attitude really helped. That might have been like one of the oval stints of my life, like sans a 500 run or anything like that. Like that was, I was driving out of my mind. I honest to God, I feel like I blacked out because I don't remember half of it. I was just in the zone and it felt good. I know I got a little lucky, I think too. Just kind of looking back on it too. Josh hit some traffic off of that caution too, so that definitely helped me build a buffer. Um, but yeah, it felt great, and then I continued the momentum. I tried to hold off Adriano, but that tire differential that I had offset, it was just a little too much to overcome. So props to him. But yeah, great. I felt this is the best I've ever felt driving Homestead.
Yeah, you kind of stole, Nicholas, what I was going to ask you. That last pit strategy there, that last sequence when you seen Pinero coming off. Did you feel like you could hold him off, or was he just too strong tonight?
Um, I mean, I had the pace, but like honest to God, him on fresh tires was just he was easily the best driver in the first third of the stint. I was definitely able to pull back time, so I thought if I could get him enough dirty air to get those tires heated up, they're not going to come back with how late we're going. But it just traffic. I hit a little bit of traffic at the wrong time. It wasn't much, but it was just enough to kind of overheat a little bit. And by the time I had to do battle, I held him up for a couple laps. So props to him though. He's class of the field for the whole race. So just being able to hold him up for a few laps on a tire differential it's a feather in the cap for me, and I'll gladly take that moving forward.
Absolutely, an impressive run, especially there towards the end of the race, like you mentioned there, those last two stints. Hugely impressive, and hopefully a sign of things to come here moving forward, and looking to talk to you to some more up here in the broadcasting booth after these races. While we do have you here, though, tonight, want to give you the chance to make some shout-outs on the air.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you all for the wonderful broadcast as always. To Chad for organizing this league and continuing to build ERL up on all fronts, and especially including the indie front, stepped up amazingly. To my Team Watson Racing setups, and my Turn 4 Racing boys as well. Sorry to see Alex head out there. Arcade Monsters out based in Florida. And speaking of Florida, little thoughts for all those affected by the hurricane as well too. Just keep them in your thoughts. Feel free to donate because they're going to need a lot of help down there too. Ohio DDR, the rhythm game community in Ohio. I'm their representative in the sim racing community. But yeah, I think that's about it. I'll hand it over to you guys. Thank you so much, and hopefully get to talk to you in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. Congratulations again. P2 finisher Nicholas Sudik, everybody. And incredible run by him. Very impressive in those final two stints, and looking forward to talking about him some more. I think he's had some flashes of brilliance this season, and looking forward to seeing that more consistently from him. I think he's been very impressive so far. All right, we'll bring in the man of the hour, Adriano. I know you don't speak much English, so I will say congratulations first on the race victory. Untouchable today. You were unbelievably quick. Want to give you the chance to talk us through your race.
Hello, friends. Good night. It's a pleasure to be here again. I want to congratulate the podium, Nicholas and Joshua. Uh, about the race, I made a great quali P1, and this helped me in the race. The setup was not easy. That was height, but I tried to do my race. I tried to always be up front, um, and I knew the race would be in the details. Uh, I I always try to stop at the edge of the stint to have an advantage on new tires. The strategy was good in the end. I'm very happy with the victory. It's important to result for my championship. I apologize again for not being able to answer any question well, but I'm trying to improve my English little by little. Finally, I want to thank my sponsor, Brett King. Thanks my teammates in Brazil. That's it. Good night, guys.
Absolutely. Congratulations again there, Adriano, and no worries. Don't need to speak English to drive fast very clearly there. Unbelievable driving, and congratulations again.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Adriano Pinheiro, your race winner there tonight. Unbelievable drive by him. Again, just from a pure pace perspective, it looked like he just kind of had something in his back pocket the entire night and pulled it out whenever he needed it. And I mean, had to use it a couple of times, but for the most part, it almost felt like Pinheiro kind of just cruising through that one, and really just nobody else had an answer for him. So, I mean, we've said this. It feels like after a number of races, really so far this season, they've been dominant victories from Pinheiro and Shin, respectively, when they've gotten out front. And so again, something to look forward to. I think we're looking at an extremely high level of driving from those two. Hopefully, we maybe get a race where both of their ability converges at a single track, and we see both of them kind of stepping away, and we're able to see a little bit more on track action between the two of them. But unbelievable what Pinheiro has done this season. Unbelievable what Joshua has done this season. Looking forward to I think the second half. I think we're going to have a heck of a battle for the championship on our hands.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. First, congratulations to Adriano for his second win in a row, third win overall. And, I think you're absolutely right that Josh and Adriano both have risen to the top. And we are, now officially in the second half of the season. So, right now it's a 2-horse race with Joshua and Adriano. It's going to be interesting to see if anybody else can emerge to catch either one of those, and heck, not even catch them, but win a race, because that's how dominant those two drivers have been. Specifically tonight, like you said, Adriano. When we would sit in his car and watch him drive, everything was just so smooth, no worries at all. He knew if he fell back in the pack, he'd be able to work his way back there, and he ends up finishing first again for the second week in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an impressive level, and we're looking forward to seeing what the future holds for these guys as we head into the second half of the season. But with them being said, it's been a pleasure to call tonight's action. It's been a pleasure to call the first half of the season for you folks at home. Myself, along with Derek Vance here, will be bringing you guys the action moving forward as well. But tonight, it's been the Decor Depot 300. Pinheiro from Sudik from Chin. Murphy and Troiano rounding out your top 5. There you see the top 18 on your screen. Of course, want to shout out TA Services, Brixi Cam, and Blue Egg Marketing, our premier sponsors. Of course, Mega Driver 86 on Twitter, as well as the Decor Depot and the Push to Pass podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight to the Elite Racing Network, home of all Elite Racing League's races. And I think we'll see you all, folks, in 2 weeks' time at Road America for our second road course of the season, second of 3. Looking forward to kicking off the second half of the championship. With that being said, good night.